Path of Exile's talking to try here with a very special guest today on the eve of Path of Exile 2's early access launch. I am sitting down with the man, the myth, the legend, Asmongold. Dude, how you doing tonight?
I am doing great, man. It's been such a I've watched your videos a number of times, right? And like to finally talk to you about all this stuff with PoE 2. This is like I don't know when this video is going to come out, but like this is the night before PoE 2 comes out. And I was laying on my futon and I was thinking, "Wait a minute. It's happening tomorrow. It's actually going to happen." I'm so I'm trying to think like what game have I been like this excited for, especially like a live service, like ongoing game. Man, it's been a while. It's been a real long time. So yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about the game.
Definitely. I actually want to leap right in
Yeah.
that, man. I know we had some crazy news that just broke, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
watched your live service video a few weeks ago. You did direct to
Uh-huh.
camera address, and during it, I think I was like taking a shower or something. I know TMI, TMI, but I was listening to it and I was like,
It's fine.
damn, I want to write a comment right now. Like,
Yeah,
Asmon, you mentioned Path of Exile, you mentioned Kyric's Vault
I
Pass.
did.
I think they're so different compared to other live
Yeah.
service games. Do you see grinding your games as different than the Battle Pass and minor content update, or do they follow like the same content cycle or cadence, you know?
So I think there's a spectrum, right? There's a spectrum of live service repetition. And
Mhm.
like for me, I'm the kind of guy, I'm an every other league kind of guy, right? And like I have a lot of other games that I play, I'm streaming all the time, I'm keeping up with a bunch of stuff. And so like a lot of times I will do one league and then I'll take a break and then I'll come back and play the next league. And so for me, that keeps it fresh to enough of an extent to where like every time that I come back, I have something new to play. But also, like the Kirax Vault Pass to me is not. I don't really even care about it. I don't even know what it gives you really. Like
I've
it
never
gives you a
bought
few
it.
like little cosmetics. Yeah, yeah. Who cares? I don't give a fuck. Right? It's a. Okay, I say it's a free game. I guess I could expose myself. I bought the $480 pack, and I also bought it for like 4 or 5 other people. So
Let's go. Let's go, man.
yeah, yeah.
Heck yeah.
I have that exact thing. And so yes, this is the most expensive free game I've ever played. But anyway, I do think it's a big difference, right? And I do feel like with live service games, PoE is one of the developers that does it the best way. Because like a lot of live service games, like one big difference that I think PoE has with other live service games is that in many games you go from step 1, 2, 3, and then the new season comes out and it's step 1, 2, 3. And like in PoE, they add steps 4, 5, and 6, right? Like there are extra things that you can do and things that like extend gameplay. And I
Sure.
feel like the real thing that separates PoE in terms of like its experience is the fact that it has a much more long form end game progression system that is not repetitive. It's not just simply you're going to kill this boss on a higher like you can't kill Shaper in the campaign on easy mode. You
Right.
can't yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing, right? And
Mhm.
so these boss fights they are like these pinnacle experiences that it's like if you can't make it like yeah you get a carry or something like that sure but like if you want to beat this boss you have to meet this point, you have to meet this level. And I feel like as a huge Dark Souls, like I like a lot of the old school no difficulty level, it's just you go in raw, it's you and the boss and you figure it out one way or another. I love that, and I feel like that is such a great form of progression because it's the visual aspect of it. It's like you're there in this room and you've never been there before and you've reached this point. And that's something that a lot of games I think have lost with difficulty levels and scalers and everything. And I'm
Mhm.
really glad to see PoE not doing that.
100%, man. And
Yeah.
obviously, lots of other people are hyped about it as well. Right before
Yeah.
we sat down, Jonathan Rogers released a preliminary address to the player base saying, hey, we just reached 1 million redemptions for our keys, and we're
Yeah.
getting more and more sales by the day. Careful with the servers this weekend. There's going to be queues, there's going to be
Yeah.
fires.
This is a disclaimer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? Like he's releasing an apology statement before the
Right.
servers actually go live, right?
Yeah, so to avoid the Reddit meltdown, the
Mhm.
bi-legally Reddit meltdown of like I feel like every time, I don't know if you think the same way, every time that there's a drama in the PoE community, it's on the first day of the league when the servers don't come up immediately. Right?
Mhm.
It's like people want to play, but they can't play. So they're like, okay, all right, what else? I'm mad. What can I get? Okay, oh, I can't believe he said this. and then immediately they make a thread about it.
Oh,
But yeah, I
100%.
think that's exactly what they're doing. I don't know if you saw this, but the Steam bestseller list is actually, you can look at it right now. It is PoE 2 is number one,
It's
the number
insane,
one game.
man.
Yep, global.
Do you
Absolutely.
So where do you think that hunger's coming from? Is it just that the game looks that damn good, or is it like the whole bossing hype that you kind of are talking about that really impresses people with games like Elden Ring and the like, which obviously was another big success of the past few years? What is feeding into millions, well, 1 million plus and probably more, buying an early access game that has been pitched as it's going to be really buggy, it's going to be
Right.
broken, it's going to be very different, it's going to be hardcore, and yet there's so many people lining up to play it. What is
Real
it?
simple. It is the culmination of 10 years of good decisions. It's that simple. Because if you look at, so here's another parallel is Monster Hunter. So I don't know how familiar you are with the series, but Monster Hunter has continuously made a number of good decisions, and the community in that game has been cultivated in a way that is extremely healthy. And the people that are fans of the game feel happy and taken care of. And because of that, the Monster Hunter Wilds demo for the new game that's coming out in February had a higher player count within like 20 minutes than the highest player count than any other monster game has ever had. And I think that like in the same way that I think Monster Hunter Wilds will be kind of like that big step into the mainstream, but like kind of like like I don't know if you played like Dark Souls or like any of those other
Hmm.
games, but like Elden Ring was that
Hmm.
foray into the real open space of the public, right? This was the, Dark Souls was mainstream, but everybody knows Elden Ring, right?
Right.
And I think
Right.
this is what's going to happen with PoE. It's because if you actually look at the Steam charts and you look at the player graphs that Grinding Gear Games has, they've provided some of them themselves. In very recent, like I think it was maybe like Settlers of Kalgor, it could have been Crucible League. I don't remember exactly which one. They announced that they had their highest player count that they had ever
Yeah, it
had.
was Settlers. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it's unbelievable. And so
Hmm.
when you see this happen continuously, why is this happening? Well, it happens as a culmination of 10 years of good decisions. Because these are 10 years of players that feel like they're taken care of, people that feel like the game is growing in a direction that they want to see it grow in. And I think in general, and also I think that that enthusiasm that people have, it's contagious. And so you
Hmm.
even saw, for example, I think it was Rob or someone tweeting about the game, and Elon Musk is like, what is this? What's this PoE 2 game? What is this?"
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, you should take a look at it. And I hope he does. I hope a lot of people do. Maybe he's one of the 1 million. And
Oh
I,
yeah.
I think honestly, like that's the reason why you see so many people that are playing it and why it's so popular. Like in a different universe 3,000 years ago, I went to college, and it's a very established fact. I went to business school, which means that I didn't really get a degree. And so one of the established facts in marketing is that the best advertising is word of mouth. And so when you see your friends and people that you know that play this game and they love this game, there are certain games out there that have such a great community. And the reason why, it's because the people that manage the community and the people that run the game have such a great relationship with the player base. Like OSRS is a little bit hit and miss, but in a general sense, it's there, right? You have Monster Hunter, you have tons of games that are like this. Like I think Fortnite in like a more disconnected way is kind of like this. And if you take care of your players, they're going to take care of you. I
Yeah.
think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, they're super proactive.
Oh yeah.
They're transparent as well. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the coolest things I think with grinding gear games, the
Uh-huh.
fact when they're showcasing new parts of their game, it's them playing said game. Of course, we got the first big
Yeah.
cinematic in Path of Exile history. I'm not counting that one with Kitava in Act 5. It does not
Yeah.
count. And that was the first time they've led with a cinematic ever. It's
Yes,
usually
it is.
just straight into the raw gameplay. And I think a lot of players find that refreshing because I know when I'm watching, like, the PC game showcase or whatever, I'm always looking for that text
Where's
at the
the
bottom.
game?
It's
Where's
where
the
it's like
game?
not
Yeah.
representative actual gameplay footage at the bottom. And I'm like,
Uh,
well, come on, what's
okay.
going on,
Yeah.
right? And GGG is
What
just
is this?
straight into it.
Well, like, I think a really interesting comparison is if you look at the difference between the showcase for, let's say, the Spiritborn class in Diablo
Hmm.
4 versus the Path of Exile, any of them of the classes that they have, right?
Yeah.
And so Jonathan's going through and he's explaining like, yeah, so you can get this ability and then this ability partners with this ability, and then you can get this skill gem that allows this ability to do this other thing. And like, so basically, like, he's building something on top of something that's existing, right? Where it's like a compounding complexity, a compounding experience. Whereas in Diablo, the way that they showcased a lot of the abilities were, this is one ability. Okay.
Hmm.
Here's the other ability. Okay. Guess what? Here's the big ability. Wow. And it's like, if you see these things, and there's like, there's not really the same conversation and thoughtfulness that's being put into the interplay between the different abilities. And I think
Hmm.
that that is such a tremendously sharp distinction between a game like Diablo, Diablo 4 and PoE. And I'm not a Diablo 4 hater. I think Diablo
Yeah.
4 has a place and it's good for what it does. But man, there's not the same level of complexity to it. And I think that when you look at PoE and you see how much complexity that they built out for it, I think it's obvious why people stay with the game and they play it for 10,000 hours.
Oh,
It's easy to
100%.
understand that.
Dude, did you see that Rod is going to play Path of Exile 2? He
Of
tweeted earlier
course.
today.
The thing is that, like, everybody likes memeing about how these game developers hate each other. I honestly bet that Rod and like like Adam and like, I don't know if Joe Shelley still works on the game, but like all of the guys from Diablo 4, I bet they think PoE is great.
They
I
should.
bet probably, yeah, they probably, well, for a fact, like, they played Last Epoch and they were like, oh, this is a really
We're
good
taking
idea.
it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they did the masterworking system, right? It's basically the
Uh-huh.
same thing in a lot of ways, at least, right? And so, yeah, I actually think that on a personal level, a lot of these developers are some of the biggest fans of the other developers. And I think that goes in the other direction as well. I would be shocked if the PoE developers did not keep up, at least with Diablo 4. They probably all played it on release because a lot of
Yeah.
these guys, I bet, grew up with Diablo 2 and 3. So, or
Hmm.
Diablo 1 even. So of course they're excited for it. I know it's always funny, the Rod's like, "Oh, it's the Diablo-like game." Uh-huh. Yeah, good one, buddy. But
We were
for the
just
most,
begging for some
yeah,
drama. That's it.
exactly. Yeah, and he's that kind of a guy. But like, really, I bet he likes the games and I bet he really respects them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think that Path of Exile 2 is going to capture so many different people. And
Mhm.
dude, I remember when you reacted to one of my first videos like a year
Yeah.
ago, it was a different camera angle and you could see my floor. And
Oh, yeah?
you said something like, there's no way this guy plays Path of Exile. His room is way too clean.
I
Spotless
probably did
floor,
say that.
dude.
Yes, I did.
I think that many different types of player are going to be able to like my dad's playing, right?
Uh-huh.
My wife's going to play, a whole bunch of coworkers, dudes they've never played ARPGs before.
Yeah.
They're all coming into play. How how frustrated do you think they're going to get? Or do you think they're not going to get frustrated because
So that's a great question. And I think that, like, really where's the really the question about that is like, how is it to where new players can come into PoE 1? And I think a lot of new players kind of bounce off of PoE 1 very easily because there are a lot of things, like, for example, like respecking in the game. Pre-Settlers of Calgar, like, Orbs of Regret are not cheap. And so, like, if you get
Mhm.
to like Act 7 and you don't really know what you're doing and you put your points in wherever you want and you made a build that was stupid, now you have to re-roll. You don't want to re-roll. Okay, well, I'm going to go play something else, right? I
Yeah.
think that's so easy for that to happen. And so I think PoE, like, whenever there have been a number of game design decisions that over the years that I think are absolute masterclasses in what it means to make a good game design decision, where you give players not what they want, but what they need. And I
Mhm.
think that a great example of this is pianoing your flasks was always something that PoE players would kind of complain about, right? And it would be like, oh, well, they're using an auto clicker, or there's a macro or something like that. And there was always drama and conversation about this.
Mhm.
So PoE, instead of banning people for doing this, or instead of changing the way that making it to where you can't use flasks or something like that, what they did
Mhm.
instead is they added the instilling orbs. to where now the flasks function on their own. So they listened to, why do players want flasks to, why are they doing this? Why are they automating this type of our gameplay? And instead of trying to punish the player for automating the gameplay, they give the player a more complete experience by figuring out what that player is trying to accomplish by automating the gameplay. And
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what's happened with a lot of the systems, and even Settlers of Calgar, for example. And I feel like with PoE 2, and the point that I'm making with that is that I think Settlers of Calgar was probably the biggest step that Path of Exile has ever made in making the game easier to approach as a new player. Except for like maybe right before they changed the Atlas or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say that's huge, right? So now you can respec with gold. You have the currency like trading thing with Faustus. Like
Huge.
there's a bunch of, yeah, exactly, right? And so all of these things are added in. And so a lot of those things that like maybe your dad or your wife would like, it would cause them to be like, that this is too much, right? Like I'm stuck, right? Like I'm in a dead end. Now they're not in a dead end. And I feel like a lot of those systems, like those old, and this is probably, it goes back to what I was saying before, good game design decisions and like these masterclass decisions. When PoE decided, or grinding your games, excuse me, decided to shift the focus from going from PoE 1 to PoE 2 to going from PoE 1 and PoE 2, like that they were going to maintain both games at the same time. I think that this gave them such a huge amount of freedom, because if they were going from PoE 1 to PoE 2, there would be a lot of vestigial systems that PoE 1 has had for many years that really could have used an overhaul, but because players are so used to them, there's going to be a lot of pushback to changing them. And I think
Yeah.
that PoE 2 gave them that opportunity to take those chances to redesign the game from the ground up and to avoid those old antiquated systems and really look at how to make the new player experience better. Because I think that PoE has no problem keeping the person that's played it for 1,000 hours to keep playing it. But I think it
True.
does have a problem keeping the person that played for 1,000 minutes keep playing it.
100%. And I've
Yeah,
had that exact experience with all of my friends who I've
exactly.
convinced to
Right?
try Path of
Same.
Exile. Literally,
Yeah.
nobody has stuck with it. They're all coming back to Path of Exile 2, and that is the exact selling point
Uh-huh.
that I've given them. Like they've taken
Yeah.
all these lessons learned over a decade, and they're not just
Mhm.
making the same mistakes in the sequel. They're learning from them and implementing them,
Yes.
and they're putting that at the forefront of the marketing. That video that they put out, the hour and a half long video laying out all the features of Path of Exile 2. I
Yes.
mean, I know what I personally liked most from the video. Is there like an evolution or a system that you are most excited for once you log in tomorrow? I presume you're playing tomorrow, right?
Oh, yes, I'm playing tomorrow all
There's
day
not
and
going to
all
be
night.
ultimatum streamer queues, are there, Asmon? No?
Um, so I unfortunately think not. Not after all the
Oh.
drama, not after McConnell saying that we're better than you whenever we're playing
Ooh.
Act 1 and
Ooh.
getting another Reddit thread. And then I think Chris messaged us. I forgot even what happened with that
Never
one.
again.
Yeah, that probably not gonna happen. And to be honest, the truth is, even as a top streamer, I think that I should not get any preferential treatment. I don't want any preferential treatment. I don't want a streamer
Love it.
queue. I don't want anything. I want to be treated like a normal player, and I want to experience the game the same as anybody else.
Fastest finger first.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah,
And if I have to sit in queue for another hour, it is what it is. That's
100%.
fine. And because the queues are going to go down day by day, and then I'll be able to play earlier, and it's not a big deal.
Hmm.
I'm not worried about this. I'm going to play this game for months, for years. Like, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to play for 40 minutes in the beginning of the game. Like, what idiot is thinking like this? I'm not. I don't give a shit. Like, yes, it would be annoying to get disconnected, and yeah,
Yeah,
but no, I'm not worried about it at all.
totally.
Not a big deal.
And when you
Mhm.
reach in, what are you like looking forward to? Gems, the bosses? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, so I think that for me, the closest thing that I've ever played to like a real tanky build is I played like obviously like Righteous Fire Chieftain, Righteous Fire Juggernaut,
Yeah.
and a couple of other like variations of that, things like that. But this time around with like the Titan, I went through and I looked at the Ascendancy today. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, we're gonna be having a good time.
Oh,
And
heck yeah.
so I'm going to try to play the most tanky, like I can block every single attack. I don't need to worry about anything. I want to make this game look like it's like made for 5-year-olds. Like I want to, like I did this with the Elden Ring DLC and it was so fun. And so that's my goal with the game. And I want to try, like, because the way that like a lot of games work is that you don't achieve that in many games through doing one thing. You achieve it through, and this is the reason why PoE is such a great game, is that you achieve it through a constellation alignment of like 15 things at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And like
Yep.
that is where the real fun comes in. That's where it's like I'm laying in bed, I'm in the Taco Bell drive-through. What am I thinking about? How to get to that next level, right? Because
Hmm.
like that's one of the ways that I grade a game is like, am I thinking about this game when I'm not playing it or not? You know, and it sounds weird, but I really think that's like such a great mark. It's like, are you invested in this game beyond just the experience that you're having? And with PoE and with number of other games I've played, absolutely I am. And so for me, that's like I'm really excited to just build out that character and to start theory crafting and learning and figuring stuff out and hopefully creating some exploits.
Dude, there's going to be exploits galore.
Yes, and then they're
100%.
going to
We don't know
immediately
any of
nerf
the
them.
unique. We know some
Yeah,
of the uniques, but I mean, we don't know all of them and all the extra mechanics we're going to be
yeah.
interacting with. And there's so much to discover. And that's, are you pro data mine or anti data mine? I know like it was a thing in World of Warcraft quite a bit. I
Uh-huh.
never played WoW. All right. I lived vicariously through people
Yeah.
like yourself who
Good
played a
decision.
ton of
Yeah.
but I know a lot of people are worried about it with Path of Exile too. Are you for or against, and would you participate in reading that info, or would you rather experience it for the first time in game?
I think that it's such a nuanced conversation
Okay.
because for me, like in WoW, I think that in a perfect world, everybody would play the game for the first time together on the release of the game. Now, we recently had a controversy with like the review copies and everything. And I
Yeah.
completely stand with like GGG and their perspective. And this is the perspective of generally everybody in the gaming media and also everybody in the gaming industry, that people being able to play the game early for the purpose of reviewing the game is in the consumer's best interest. And it is absolutely the right decision. Right. So, like, I
Hmm.
think that for press passes and people that are able to play the game for review purposes, absolutely, that's great. That's super important because that helps people make $30 might not be a lot for me or you, but for somebody it is, right? And for
Oh yeah.
everybody it's still $30, right? It's $30. And so people want to be able to be informed with that decision should they choose to pursue the information. But the fact is that I think with a lot of these games, with data mining at least, uh it does cheapen the experience, but you have to also keep in mind that you cheapen the experience by taking part in it. Like
Right.
you don't
Looking.
and yeah, exactly. You're looking. And so if you want to play the game blind, like this is the way that I encourage people to play games is I think go in raw, go in blind. Excuse me, I eat Chipotle.
You're good, dude.
Go in raw, go in blind. Do everything totally the way that you want to do it as much as you want. And then afterwards, if you hit a wall or you're kind of like getting bored of the way that it's playing, then you metagame. And so it's like basically you get to enjoy the discovery of the game two times in my mind, where
Hmm.
it's like first you're learning about the game and now you're learning about the game. Now it's like, okay, well, how can I take this to the even next level? And so I use that approach with a lot of games that I play, and I think that it gives me the most fulfilling experience when I do so.
Yeah, and I think Path of Exile exemplifies that so much so, and I'm guessing
Hmm.
Path of Exile 2 will as well. More so than any other game that I've played. There's obviously character progression in Path of
Yeah.
Exile, but there's also player progression. Every single time I play, every single character that I make, I just always am better and better at the game. And I've played probably for thousands of hours at this point since
Yeah.
Blight 3.8, and I just keep learning every league. Like, and
Hmm.
it's not because I'm stupid or anything. Trust, I'm not stupid. I'm not the smartest out there. I can't build craft or anything, but there's just such a wealth of info out there. And it's why I really like PoE, because
Oh,
if
it's
I'm only playing like one
insane.
game, I always feel like I'm I'm having a return on my investment because I'm
Mhm.
constantly learning, and I like that feeling. You know?
I think that's the one thing that separates PoE from a lot of the other ARPGs is
Mm,
that if you're playing a game for 40 hours, if you have 40 hours to devote in a season, you might
mm.
get more out of Diablo 4 than you would about PoE. But if you've got 400 hours or 4,000 hours, oh, now we're into the PoE territory. So it's like a game like Diablo kind of has like, a very low ceiling and a very high floor. There's not a lot that you can do in that game. There's only so many variables, etc. And I think that PoE, it's one of the only games. I was actually having a conversation with somebody about this recently. And it's like, yeah, PoE is one of those games that somebody can play the game for 3,000 hours. It's like, well, do you understand the game? No, of course not. No,
Mm.
yeah, I understand how this one build worked this one time in this one league. But other than that, no, I don't. See, like, I thought I understood the game. And then I built a ward loop character.
Don't
I
bring
did
up the
not
clip.
understand
Oh
the game.
God, not the clip.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and so that was a real experience for me. And I remember like I've had so many experiences playing the game and like different types of like oh well, righteous fire, it doesn't hit the mob, it's a it's a degen aura, and so it's not an actual hit. It's like, okay, all right, noted. Now I'm going to add that into the massive list of things that I need to know. And it's like crafting, I think, is a great example in PoE 1 of like I loved the old videos where people would break down every step that was taken to craft an item because of just like it's kind of like looking at an infographic, right? It's just
Hmm.
interesting to look at and watch, even from an outsider perspective. But I think that what they're doing with crafting now, where they're kind of augmenting crafting to be a little bit more, again, accessible, that way, like, because right now with PoE 1, there are like maybe 2 or 3 different ways that you can solve each problem with a piece of gear. And I think that's confusing for players. And so that's kind of a good example of how there's kind of those vestigial systems that have just built up, right? You have fossils, you've got harvest crafting, you've got, fracturing, like, oh my God, there's all of these things. And PoE 2, let's wipe the slate clean. Let's see what really works. Let's consolidate a few things. Like, I think that Blight is being consolidated, like anointments from Blight are being consolidated into, I think it might be Breach.
Delirium. Delirium.
Delirium. Yes, you're
Yeah.
right. Delirium.
Yep.
And so those things are that's great. That's an amazing thing. And I think that also what it does too for PoE is that it builds hype because I think that eventually they will probably add Blight back.
Oh yeah.
And like when they do, everybody is going to be like, yes, we're ready, right? And so it'll be added back in a way that is just different and unique, and it's a new take on the experience.
Well, yeah, that's what they've done with a lot of the returning leagues, it seems, and the
Yeah.
Atlas too, dude. So I
Mhm.
know you've played since closed beta, right? So before maps in the Atlas.
I spent the majority of my net worth on PoE in 2012 because so this is what happened. I came home one, evening to watch my favorite streamer, Kripparrian, and play video games, right? Whatever he was playing, it was like, oh, always hardcore games. It's awesome. No life crip. Those were the days. And this was over 10 years ago, by the way. And so I saw this, he was playing this game, and I honestly I thought it was Diablo 2. But like I was like I was in this cave. It was like the Act 2 cave with the bears in it. And he was doing this, and I was watching it. I was like, this looks really good. I want to play this game. And it was the weekend and Chris Wilson was talking to Kripparrian about PoE 1 that day. And so I'm like, okay, I need to play this game. I have to play this game. And so I log in, and what I find to be extremely funny about this is that in the entire general chat of the PoE back in closed beta, everybody was talking shit about Diablo 3. Everybody was like, I hate Diablo 3. This is so much better than Diablo 3. This is what Diablo 3 wishes it was. And the best thing about it is now in PoE 2, guess what the general chat is going to be about? Diablo 4,
It
which is
is.
really, really funny to me. But yes, I played since then, and then like so the free weekend ended, and I had to contribute to the to the game in order to keep playing. And so I had like, $25 in like my student account, and I had to spend over $15 and I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And I did. I spent my last $15 so I could play that game. This is all the way back in 2012 in the closed beta.
Crazy.
Yep. It was a
That's
very,
crazy,
very
man.
long time ago. It was the last boss was the Val Oversoul at that point.
Oh, what a,
Yep.
I need to put up side by side footage of those, like the Val Oversoul versus whatever
Yeah.
the Act 2 final boss is going to be.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean,
Well,
the
and like
progress
back
is
then,
insane.
everybody was so dog shit at the game. They were like, well, don't let that smash get you.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It was so garbage. Like now it's so easy. It's so obvious. Hey, what do you mean go let the smash get you? What are you dumb? But like, yeah, back then, yeah, we were. We didn't know anything.
Yeah, I feel like people are going to hit some of those same sort of walls, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit more earned in
Mhm.
Path of Exile 2.
Oh,
Have you
yeah.
played any PoE 2 yet? Or no, not yet?
None. None.
No.
I haven't
Oh,
had. I
shoot,
only
dude.
tried because you probably played it at ExileCon, right?
I didn't go to Exile. I went to LA twice and I played it there
Oh,
twice.
so you went to that with like DM and like a few of the other
Hmm.
guys, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. And
Yep.
so no, I have not played a single second of the game.
Ooh, so you are fresh, dude. Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's going to be good.
Oh yeah. I'm
That's
going.
going to be entertaining.
I like to play games for the first time on stream so people can see like my genuine first reaction.
Yeah.
You know.
It's going to
So
be
yeah.
good. Like, exploring all the stuff that they don't necessarily showcase
Uh-huh.
in the presentations is going to be really cool too. I won't spoil anything, but
Oh
they
yeah,
have some
I can
things.
well imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Just the exploration and even like the menus, dude. Like
Yeah.
they went hard with helping new players and just helping explain what things do at a baseline and then letting you imagine how you can take it from there. Like they have
Exactly.
skill gem videos in game, which is pretty damn cool. They're
Oh,
actually
so
well made.
do they kind of have it where is it kind of like how the store had and it would show the microtransaction like spell effects?
It's even better because it's in the game client.
Yeah, it's not like a
A
YouTube one.
YouTube
Yeah,
video.
that's really
Yep.
nice. Wow.
Yep, with a voiceover too, a professional voiceover, or
Mhm.
at least it was a good voiceover when I last listened to it. I
Yeah,
don't know if they've
well,
changed it,
there it
but
is.
it's great. Man, I didn't realize that you hadn't played it before.
No, I have not.
Yeah,
I have
man. I
not
mean,
played the game. I'm totally ready to just experience it on my own and just see what happens. Because like there's all the things apparently the is it true that the village that you build in Settlers of Calgar is in PoE 2?
it is, but it's Act 4, and we don't have Act 4.
That it the fact that they did that,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely fucking cinema. Absolutely insane. How did you Oh my god, this is such a good idea. And it's like that was the point. I was like, yeah. Yeah, bro, like we are in the good days. I feel
They're
like yeah,
kings of asset reuse too. Like
they
they know
sure
how
are.
to do it right, man.
Well, they know how to do it right. Blizzard might be the king of asset reuse,
Really, really,
but
I don't
you
know.
know, GGG is the king of maybe using asset reuse in a good way.
Exactly.
Because like, no,
Yeah.
you're definitely right. I mean, like, because I'm the kind of person like I'm like a game mechanic kind of person. So like, I'll see, oh, those are the big juggernaut type NPCs in Ultimatum, or
Yep.
oh, these are the guys like that, weird guy that's like, does like electricity in Act 2. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, this is it. And so, and I'll notice this a lot with like, especially action combat Souls games. It's like, oh, okay, this is that boss, or oh, okay, this is that boss, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very funny to me, especially with some of them. They do not even try to hide it. It's just so obvious.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean PoE, I think it's kind of the same thing, right? I mean, they're just going, of course they're going to copy the same mobs, right? In some cases, sure. Like why not? And I think like for example, like some of the Scourge mobs are like like transformed versions of like the goats that jump on you in Act 1. I think that
Mm-hmm.
they're like similar to that, but like
Right.
it doesn't feel lazy, right? It feels good. And I think that's what really matters, right? It's like, does it feel like asset reuse, or does it feel like it's a new transformative model? I think it feels transformative in almost all cases.
It's because they put that extra step. So, for example, in Act 2, you fight a big Colossus guy in a canyon. That's as far as I'll go. And then in Endgame, when you
Sure.
find him in maps, he's in the freaking belly of a volcano. And
Uh-huh.
there's like lava spewing out everywhere, and it's a completely different fight. Like the vibe is different. I'm sure the music is different.
Yeah.
And in Path of Exile 2, almost all the mobs in maps
Mhm.
are completely random, and there's 400 unique monsters, not counting bosses, in the game,
Oh
which
my
is
god.
it's mind-boggling, dude. If they
I
can
don't
pull
know
it
how it
off.
happened. Yeah, well, this is the thing. And I feel like another really big question that like this has me asking is like,
Mm,
how is it that you're able to like, because grinding gear games is like, it's one of those like, it's kind of like Larian that made Baldur's Gate 3, where it's like, they're not really a AAA game studio, but they make games that outperform AAA games,
mhm.
right? And so well, like they don't have these like gigantic, Hollywood level like mass like AAA, quadruple A budgets like Ubisoft or Blizzard or like, a Microsoft studio could have. But it's like, how is it that they can make so much content with seemingly such a small amount of budget? And you see this happen also with, I don't know if you played Black Myth Wukong. That game was less than $100 million to make. And it had like 90 unique bosses in it. It had trailers that were done. Everything was voice acted. So it's like, wait a minute. How the hell did we get these? How the hell we get Star Wars Outlaws? What the hell is this? How does this happen? And that's the real question that I have is like, PoE does this. What the hell is everybody else doing?
I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They've got like 150 or so developers too. I
Mhm.
like I know they outsource some art and everything, but the fact that they're able to design
Everybody
all this
does.
shit.
Mhm.
Everybody does that, right?
Even from software.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it is mind-boggling. I tried to ask Jonathan that. I was like,
Yeah.
what is your secret sauce?" Manager's like, we just are passionate and we do the work, get our job done. It was basically
Yeah.
like
We
he
just
doesn't
do
really
it.
know.
How
Like
do
they
you do
just
it?
do
Well, we
it.
do it. Yeah.
Right. They just make it good. That's
Yeah.
essentially it. And it's a
Mhm.
wild answer, but it works for them. It
It's
really does.
crazy how easy
And
it
it's
is.
showing, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. I
No, I'm very excited. I think that really the main test that PoE 2, like the main thing that they have to overcome is keeping new players engaged. I think
hmm.
that if they can keep new players engaged and locked into the game, this game could be massive.
What
Like
activates your
really.
neuron? Like what do you think is gonna do it? Is it gonna be the loot, the boss fights,
I
just the
think it
class
will
skills?
probably be it will probably be the combination of those. Like, the
Okay.
combination of being able to get unique items that allow you to subvert different boss mechanics. For example, like, if you've ever made a character that has enough regen to stand in a cirrus cloud, it's like, "I win now." Like,
That's
I've
good.
beaten the fucking game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there are gonna be those benchmark mechanics and those benchmark functions that those are the things that players are really going to look forward to the most.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what's really going to keep them engaged is like when they can finally, because it's kind of like what I was saying before about like the Diablo 4 versus like PoE 2 like dichotomy of the skill things, is that the moment that the player realizes, oh shit, I can get greater multiple projectiles on my thing that shoots a big projectile. What?
Hmm.
That is going to excite them. And I
Right.
think that like it's kind of like the whole thing where magicians say the best magic is the magic that's performed in the hands of the person who's like, watching. And that is kind of where I think people like they get that moment where they're like, "Oh my god." It's like they're almost like they're cheating in the game or like they're getting away with something in the game. And I
Yep.
think that moment is what really that's how you lock somebody into a game.
Yeah. That exact thing happened to me when I played Path of Exile 1, man.
Yeah.
It was that. It was a witch rolling magma, and I realized that. I was
Mm.
splitting them into multiple projectiles
Yeah.
and all this different Oh, it was so cool. And then it was when I found the ascendancy altar. And I was like, wait, what? I can get all this cool
Yeah.
stuff and edit and there's three options. And
Yep.
that's something else, man. So early access starts tomorrow, or
It
yep,
does.
tomorrow. It's still today, technically recording this,
Yes.
and it's only half the classes and 12 of the 36 ascendancies, one third of the
Yeah.
ascendancies, man.
Yep.
Like,
And
what?
they're not even releasing like super like definitional or I don't know if that's a word super like just like archetypal like ascendancies like
Mm,
necromancer.
No.
Necromancer isn't getting added. And like I'm sure people will try to make it happen, right? They'll
Oh
try
yeah.
to make it work and it'll probably still be better than everything else. But it's not the ascendancy isn't even in the game yet. So like you have these entire like class fantasies that aren't even going to be there. And I think people are still going to be excited.
Paladin in
Yeah.
PoE 2 before Diablo 4. Yes or no?
I mean, I don't know what they're doing.
Come on.
How do they not have a how do they have a paladin?
Spirit
Like
Board's
they're
pretty busted,
considered.
man. I mean, come on.
It has really cool like the centipede thing is really cool.
I loved
But
it.
and I think it's fun, but it's just not like
It's not Diablo,
yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, I mean it's okay. I played it for a bit and then it's like, okay, do you want to do this like 50 times on 50 levels? Let's not say we did. And that's it. I'm done. And again, fun game, good, but I not really for me that much.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me, man. You think there's going to be a
What?
Paladin in PoE 2
Oh,
first?
right. I feel like I mean, are they adding? Is Inquisitor one of the classes? Because I
We
feel
don't
like
know. It's the Templar, and it's like attached to
Templar
flails and
Paladin. Yeah,
everything.
Paladin. Absolutely Paladin.
I
100%.
feel like they're gonna do it, man. Like
Yeah.
the classic board and yeah, the Morning Star and flail and everything. Like
Yeah.
D3. D3 had that. That's what I played in D3 when I first played it.
With Crusader.
Crusader. Yep, exactly that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
played Crusader a little bit, and yeah, generally like the Paladin. Like I've always liked Paladin because it's usually the class that you can play if you're a fucking idiot that just wants to stand still and not pay attention and kill everything
Yes.
passively.
Yes.
And so I am hoping that Titan will be able to do that a little bit too. But I've got a friend of mine. He's probably going to be playing Paladin or whatever is closest to that. And I'm hopefully not going to be getting class envy by seeing him
Are you
play
going to
it.
be doing multiplayer or are you going to be playing alone
I'm
to start?
probably going to start solo, and
Okay.
then once I get to an apex in the game, or I get to like a mapping in the game, then I might play. I think I will play with other people
Mm-hmm.
just in order to experience what it's like playing with other people,
It seems
right?
cool. Way
And
better than
yeah,
PoE 1. Holy.
yeah. I mean, I played PoE one like with a group before,
Okay.
but it just never really felt like. And I feel like ARPGs. It's weird. Like, did you play Lost Ark?
I didn't, but I watched a lot of gameplay of it.
I've got to tell you, Lost Ark did some of the most incredible boss fights ever. Like, I think that for an ARPG, and I really do mean this, and we love PoE here, but I think Vaulton is probably the best isometric ARPG style fight that I have ever done. And
Okay.
I don't even think anything else comes close. But the problem is the game's fucking pay to win garbage.
That's
But
yeah.
besides that,
Mhm.
it's the gameplay, like the Procol fight, for example, in Belshazzar, absolute S tier quality gameplay, right? And so Lost Ark was more designed for a multiplayer aspect, whereas PoE isn't really designed for that. I think that you can do it if you want, and it's cool to see like Empyrean, who basically totally owns the market by like day 4, and
Yep.
it's crazy to watch them play the game, and it's like, oh, we got another headhunter, okay. You know, I mean, what do you mean, okay? But like that's great. But like I feel like again, ARPGs they need to be played solo, and so I think I'll probably play them solo. But I do want to experience what it's like playing in a group.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you gonna
Yeah,
use controller or mouse, WASD? Like what are you doing, man? I'm so curious.
I play Sekiro and Elden Ring on keyboard and mouse. Okay.
Holy, I can't
Yeah.
no, dude.
So yeah, we're gonna be using keyboard and mouse on this.
Keyboard and
Absolutely.
mouse on
Yeah, that's
so
right.
I've played a little bit of like Elden
Yeah.
Ring. I tried it on stream. I'm
Uh-huh.
ass at it. How did you do
It's
keyboard and mouse, man? It's so janky.
how
What?
do you do how do you do controller, man? Like it's
I
like you can't like I can move my camera really, really fast. I can click exactly on where I want to do. Like I have everything planned out. There's no like button combinations I need to do. Like I
okay.
have everything totally in my head of like exactly the way the game should play with like keyboard and mouse versus like when I play with a controller. Like I played Bloodborne and Bloodborne is on PS4. Well, not anymore. It's actually on PC too. But that's another story. And anyway, so I played Bloodborne. I can play it on controller. I played Demon Souls for PS5. Played that on controller too. Sure. But if I have to choose, it's always going to be keyboard and mouse.
Okay. Okay.
What
That's
about you?
curious. I'm gonna try both, but I am
Yeah.
with you leaning toward keyboard and mouse,
Hmm.
especially because there's gonna be so much inventory management, I presume, in the
Oh yeah.
game. Especially because you're gonna especially in maps, I feel like you're going to not want to leave the map very often since you only get that one portal, that one death. Think you're going to want to do it in one go, kind of, and not
Yeah.
okay, take all this loot out, go back in, take it out, go back in. I, to have it feel fluid, you're going to want to stay and clear the whole thing, kill the boss. Are you There's a big debate going on right now, dude, with
Yeah.
the portal thing. Are you
Right.
pro there being like pausing during end game boss fights and the like? Because you can pause at any time in PoE. And Ben is vowed to like spam pause 500 times when he fights the pinnacle for the first time to prove a point that it's bad. What are your
Um,
thoughts on that?
so pausing does undoubtedly give you a combat advantage, and it
Yeah.
allows you to assess your situation and to make decisions that need to be like, for example, like the Maven memory game. It's like if you could
Yes.
pause, you could just do click, click, okay, I'm on Microsoft Paint and I can do this. And so there are advantages to pausing, but I think that in you have to compare the advantages to pausing, and sometimes I think that video game developers, and whenever I say video game developers, I'm of course complaining about Blizzard again, is what a lot of video game developers do is they look at the most like no life top 0.01% of the player base, and they see how they're playing, and then they contrive the game around that. And
Mm-hmm.
how many, like, which one are there more of? Are there more bins, or are there more average people that somebody came to the door and they have to pause the game?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even a question. So,
Yep.
yes, it's totally true that like pausing the game does remove some degree of like severity of what's happening in the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely does. But the gain from that, I think, is so much greater. And just again, it's kind of like it goes back to again what I was saying about like making sure that new players and casual players can play the game and have a good time. And I think that matters a lot more. And so I'm very pro pausing. And I feel that same way about Elden Ring. And before
Okay.
anybody says Elden Ring doesn't have pausing, it actually, as a matter of fact, does. You just have to open a menu inside of the menu, and then it will, in fact, pause the game. But a lot of people don't know that. So there's a lot of features like this that many people actually are not aware of. But yeah, I think pausing is a good thing. It's an overall good thing. But I think that the hardcore players, their concerns are legitimate. I hate to say it, but I don't think they matter as much as the vast player base.
I think that's the proper take. It all
Yeah.
makes sense why they want it
Of
removed.
course,
But
I
I think the
totally understand
positives,
that.
yeah, they
But it's
outweigh.
but here's the other thing. If you think pausing is cheating and it gives you an unfair advantage,
Don't pause.
don't pause.
Don't do it. Don't look at the
Don't
data
do it.
mines. Just
Don't do it. Because
self-control.
I bet a lot of people that do hardcore for a boss fight, they probably look it up and they watch what happens ahead of time, and then they do the boss fight because now they know what to do. So if you're one of the people that thinks that that's not the case, then don't do that. And I think that really it's kind of like Elden Ring. You can take the approach of the game where you use every advantage possible, or you can take the approach of the game where you forego every advantage possible. And the choice is on you, the player. And so allowing the player to make that decision themselves, I think it's kind of like a difficulty mode, but it's one that's created by the player, which I think is more fulfilling and better design.
Yeah. And with the design grinding your games is going for, with the
Yeah.
one death, one attempt, you're done, and the way that they design boss fights, where you have to build up to one, it's not like Elden Ring, where you can
Mhm.
just endlessly bash your
Just do it
head
again and
against the
again.
wall at
Yeah.
endgame. Yeah, it's one and done for these pinnacle encounters. And I've lost like portals and Maven to go help my daughter or anything. If I spent like 10 of my game hours working up to the pinnacle and then
Mhm.
an emergency happened, of course I'm going to go help my family, but I'm going to be
You
so
have
pissed that I missed that. I couldn't just press pause, man.
exactly. Yeah. And so it's
Oh,
like, how many more like, it's again, just a matter of priorities and really, in my opinion, kind of common sense. How
mhm.
many people are guys that I mean, maybe they don't have a family, maybe their mom needs something, they're a younger
Right.
guy, right? It's like you're 15, okay, I've got to go and, help my mom do dinner or something like that. I've got to pause right now. What's wrong with that?
100%, dude.
Yeah.
Uh, so we've been chatting for almost an hour now.
Okay.
I had two more things for you, Asmon.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
It's a big one, but you can think on your feet pretty
Okay.
fast. You've played a multitude of games, dude, over the
I have.
past few years, especially. You've been expanding your horizons and the like. If you could bring one thing from one of those games into the ARPG genre, maybe even Path of Exile 2, what do you think it's sorely lacking at this point?
This is the easiest answer of my life.
Bring it, because
So,
everybody's like, I don't know.
yeah.
So
So in World of Warcraft, you'd never believe this, but it's actually a system from WoW that I think is very good, is that you are able to export builds. And I think that for new players, being able to export a build and being able to have a build rubric that you can build off of. Basically, I have the viewpoint that every time that a user feels like they need to use a third party website to play a game, that is a shortcoming of the game. Now, obviously, this is my opinion and it's subjective and everything, but I think that if you are able to generate kind of build code IDs and then it could be implemented into the actual game itself and it could show you what those talent and what these talent tree and like choices would be. I think that would be helpful for new and average players that are playing the game and they don't really know like, well, what build am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? It's like, I have to look up a YouTube video. Well, it's like you just put in this code and then it tells you which build to play in this way, right? So it's
yeah,
kind of like you're effectively watching a build guide, but you don't have to tab out every 2 or 3 levels to remember which buttons to press. So
yeah.
like having a like kind of templated build that you can export and then share with other people, I think would be a tremendous thing that would make PoE better. Now, I can't think of a consequence for it. Maybe somebody in the comments can, or maybe somebody in the PoE2 dev team can, but I think it would be amazing for the game.
Yeah, I'm not anti third party. I just don't use them. It's that self control sort of thing. I think it
Sure.
dampers the experience. I've never used Awaken Trade ever. I've played
Wow.
since Blight, getting 40
How
out
do
of
you
40
trade?
challenges, no Awaken Trade. I started using POB last league because everybody's like, "What are you doing with your build?" And I was like, "All right, here, I'll throw
Uh,
something together." Worst build in POB of all time. Seriously.
yeah. But it doesn't matter, right? Because like at the end of the day, and that's the good thing about games without difficulty levels, you can beat the game. You don't have this endless scaling difficulty. I mean, I guess no, to be fair, like Delve is like even though like technically it's not endlessly scaling because there's some sort of like I don't know, it doesn't matter, 32-bit like
One dude cleared it,
integer
man.
number
Bit stained
compression. Yeah.
Steve.
Exactly, right? Yeah,
Yep, yep.
I watched it myself. It was nuts, right? But other than that, it's basically there's no infinite scaling, right, in the game. And that means like, yeah, you don't need to have this like perfect hyper optimized build to kill Shaper or to kill Steering Exarch, right? You just need to have a good build. And like I think POB, like if you want to hyper optimize with POB, like I've done that myself, it's fun. It's really fun. But if you don't want to, what's super important is that it's still fun. And I think with PoE it is. Because I'm the same as you. The majority of my time playing the game, I have not used any sort of like third party stuff at all.
Yeah. I just feel like it dampers it. I told everybody on stream today
Yeah.
before I signed off, I said,
Mhm.
you can watch streamers if you want, you guys, but the best way I think to play Path of Exile 2, one monitor, nobody else on your side monitors. You just play the game yourself. Screw me, screw all the other streamers.
Yeah.
If you can play tomorrow, you should just play. Don't pay attention to us.
I
Seriously.
completely agree with you. So I recently, and it's like people are like, oh, I can never get into games nowadays. It's like you have 3 monitors on, you're listening to music, you have dialogue turned off, and you're watching a
Oh,
stream on one screen, and you've got Netflix on the other, and you're in a Discord call with your friend. It's like, yeah, good, big surprise. You don't know what the hell's going on in the game. Wow, what a and then these are the same people that are complaining about iPad kids. Like, you're worse. What do you mean?
it's so
And
true, man.
so yes. And so I had this experience, this revelation with Dragon's Dogma 1. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna play the game. And I played it on stream, one of the worst streams of my life, especially according to my viewers. I played it off stream. I turned off the other monitors. I locked in. and I tried to enjoy and experience the game. One of the best experiences I've had with an over
Awesome.
10-year-old game. Amazing experience. So I completely agree with you. I think that you're totally right.
Yeah. It's the best way to do it. Metaphor too,
It
is
is.
that what you've been doing? Playing Metaphor off stream and
Have you played
everything?
it yourself?
I haven't played it. I've seen that it's so good, and I've been trying out new games. I'm like a
Mhm.
mono gamer, like with Path
Yeah.
of Exile, but I've been experimenting, and
Uh-huh.
like Hades. Holy
Yes.
crap, dude! When I've got that for
Yes.
$5 on Steam, what a game!
Had no business being that good.
No,
It
it's
really, and the story was incredible. Like
so good, man.
oh my
Oh, I
god.
couldn't believe it.
How is it that good? And even I don't know if you played Hades 2, it's an
Not
early
yet. I'm
access.
waiting for it to come out
Yeah.
of early access.
Yep. Already it's shaping up to be a really great game. And
So,
so
so
yeah,
excited.
yeah. But I definitely agree with you. Like, yeah, I think that if money's tight in any way, watch a stream, see how the gameplay is,
Yep.
make a good informed decision with your money, right? Decide what you want to do. But if you're gonna play the game anyway, play the game, lock in, play it yourself, have fun, and that's it. That's what I think.
100% agree, man.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing words to anyone who may have the funds to play Path of Exile 2 tomorrow, but is still undecided? Actually, today, it's now past midnight. Today is launch day. Any closing words, Asmon?
My best advice is that so I think you should get the game, right? And this is very important. If you're even thinking about playing the game, if you like if you spend $30 to get into the early access, you get the equivalent of $30 on the store, right? So it's not like you're really paying $30 for an entry ticket and you're not getting anything else. You also get like the stash tabs and everything else. Uh I think that PoE 2 will probably be my favorite, if maybe second favorite, if not favorite game of the year with this year. And like Black Myth Wukong is number one right now, and Metaphor ReFantagio is number two. And these games, I think, are both like S tier quality games. And I think that PoE 2 will easily break into that top three, and it might be in that top two or that top one spot for me. And so I think it's, watch streams, watch YouTube videos, read reviews, do whatever you do to make an informed decision. And, I think that if you become informed, I'll be seeing you playing the beta tomorrow. That's what I think.
Awesome, Asmon. I could
Yeah,
not have said it better myself. Thank you so much for hopping on. I
absolutely.
really appreciate your time, dude. This was spectacular. I hope you enjoy early access. I know I'll be tuning into some of your streams. Most definitely, dude.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. And I've seen a number of your videos, and it's great to be part of one. So thanks a
All
lot.
right. Thank you. We'll
See
chat
ya.
later. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Make sure to sub and like the video if you haven't already. Bye. All right. Asmon, thank you so much, man. That
That
was
went really
awesome.
well. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.